good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the short card. Now before you turn away, I gotta say, we're not talking about the gimmick short card. We are talking about impromptu short card, how to use a short card in an impromptu way. Now if you don't know what a short card is, stick around and you will learn a very cool card magic principle and a couple of the neat applications, and one that I bet you have never seen before. So even if you are familiar with short cards, stick around because there will be something useful for you in this video. We're going to talk about forces, we're going to talk about peaks, and all kinds of great stuff. So as usual, I just got to plug the website. If you haven't checked it out, rfsleights.com. We got some merch, you can check out the private lessons, and I would just really appreciate if you go and give it a look. Anyway, let's not spend too much more time here. Just drop a like on this video if you like the tutorials so I can keep them coming, keep continuing to make more content, and we can, get these videos to more eyes and please the algorithm, as they say. So with all that said, let's just jump right into this tutorial on the short card. So guys, if you are unaware, the short card is a short card. That's really what it is. So what you do typically, you would simply take a playing card and you would slightly, ever so slightly, trim off the top edge. And this would provide you with a short card, a card that is millimeters shorter than all the others, and it's actually a very powerful tool. Now, if you're anything like me, well, I don't like gimmicks and I don't feel like cutting off my cards, okay? Not that I really don't want to destroy them, but you could be in a situation where you don't want to wreck your cards, and I totally understand that. But for me, I guess I'm lazy. I don't know. I'm not really lazy though. I could do it. I have scissors right here, but I would rather do this ungimmicked. And if you know anything about me and the type of magic I do, it is very much ungimmicked, and so this follows suit. So the short card, we're used to seeing that in something like a Svengali deck, where every other card is short, and then as you riffle through, it'll only show the card behind each of the short cards, right? And that is essentially what you can do. It allows you to get a break instantly, right? You could cut to it very easy, almost like a breather. Like I said, you can riffle and easily catch a break on that short card. In the Svengali deck's case, when every other card is a short card and you go through it, it now only reveals the card behind the short card because you immediately skip over the short card and jump to the next card in line, right? So it skips over those short cards. So it's using that same principle, just in a slightly different way. In this video, I want to talk to you about an impromptu method for utilizing all the things you could do with a short card without having to do anything to your deck, without having to ruin your cards, and something you can do on the fly with a regular deck of cards. The normal use for the short card is, well, there's a few, but often it is used to help you stop on a particular card that could be used as a force. Now David BLAINE, as I recall, is the one who popularized, or at least this is where I originally remember seeing it. I remember there being a pretty big buzz about him doing this. He popularized, as far as I know, the idea of this, where you go like this, and you tell someone to think of a card, and it appears like you show them all the cards, but you really are stopping on that one card every time for a split second longer than the rest, and that's the card that gets locked in the spectator's memory. So it was a force in a little bit more of a fair way, rather than having someone call stop and you stop there on the short card, which is still a viable force, but he used to do it just like that. We're going to talk about now how you can use this impromptu sort of idea to do a short card, and in my opinion it's better in a lot of ways. You don't have to keep track of a gimmick, and you can do it with whatever card because you can utilize every single card as a short card, right? So let's drop down to the card table and we'll check it out. Alright guys, so the first thing I want to talk about is essentially what the principle is. How are we going to do this impromptu? Well, the short card, all it's doing is creating a slight gap, right? A slight ridge, because it's shorter than the rest. So this is an idea that has been explored where we can just offset one of the playing cards, and now it's shorter on this edge. Almost like an in-jog. You're essentially in-jogging or out-jogging the playing card to now give you a stepped edge that you can use and behave as a short card. The only downside is you have a little bit of card sticking out, but this can be easily hidden now by the hand. Let's talk about the force first. The more classic way that a short card is typically used, and then I'll talk about some more unorthodox things that you can do with it. So let's say we want to force the bottom card. So you get your force card to the bottom, let's say the Ace of Hearts, and then you're going to go for a cut. And as you go for the cut, you just slightly drag this card back with the thumb, which was the original top card. So Ace of Hearts on the bottom, you swing it over and slightly pull it back as this hand comes and throws that on top. now you have that in jog that can be used as a short card. So now there are two different ways to do the force, right? Your hands in your mechanic's grip, all you need to do is slightly tilt back, barely any, and that little in jog will be out of view. It's just like a typical in jog. And now you can grab the deck by the front and adjust it into the position ready for the peak. So you're just kind of gripping it at the side like this. You can see my in jog. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do the force. So again, our force card is the Ace of Hearts. Some people will do it as sort of a timing force where you're going through and they say stop, and you stop on the Ace of Hearts, and it's just timing. The second you just watch their mouth, and the second their mouth begins to open to say stop, you just quickly riffle and you'll hit your short card. So you can go through, call stop, and they will call stop, and you can show that card. So if it was like this, stop, and you just go. So what you're doing is you're going through slowly, and then when they say stop, you just pull back and let everything else riffle off, and that your hand will stop right on that short card. And now they can peek in, see that card, and you've achieved your force. Things to keep in mind with this, it's better now if, so Ace of Diamonds will force in this case, if we cut off a large chunk, right? A larger chunk from the top to get our, and then we get our short card and throw it here. So now the in jog is closer to the top, so we have much more room to play with the riffling, right? If it was near the front, we would have to, you can't pass it obviously or you'll miss the force. So now you have lots of room to riffle as long as they want until they call stop, and you're right on your force card. So this is something like cutting to a breather that's just gonna take a bit of practice to get the knack to stop on that short card. But you're just riffling and then you'll just stop. One tip I have is the further back you pull, the more accurate I find this. So if you pull back far, your hand it'll just naturally stop at that short card. So if you're having trouble, really pull back on that deck and you'll get it to stop on that short card every single time. So how this looks at a bit of speed, right? We want to force the 10 of diamonds. I cut, and just like that, and without hesitation, I've put in my break. Now I can come up and they say stop, and we forced the 10 of diamonds, right? So all I'm doing is I cut, and instantly as I get the thumb here, I pull back a little bit and slap this on top. Now another tip that's going to help you with all of your work with the short card is to keep the rest of the deck as square as possible. Keep that bottom chunk square and try really hard to only pull back the top card. If you get more than the top, you're likely pushing too hard, and that's why you pull the second card. So just a light pull back, then throw this on top. And what I like to do is square as I come to grip this and move it up to re-grip like this. I'll square the sides with these fingers and the top here, and I'll push. I'll use the thumb and the middle finger to pull the cards upwards and the index to push back, and then I'll square the front edge, which will still leave me with a nice in jog, but now the rest of the deck is square. Another thing you can do is just use your thumb to square up this top packet above the in jog here. So you cut, pull back, throw it on top, and you can see it's not perfectly square right now, but as I come to re-grip, my fingers are gonna push and try to square everything. And I can even use these fingers along the side to square those as I go into the re-grip. Then I can move my thumb along the back to square up like this. And now that it's nice and square, I can easily get my short card position, right? The more square it is, the more that short card will stand out and make it easier to hit. So that's the first idea for the force. The other idea is sort of that David Blaine idea that I talked about. Again, I like to put this one at about the center of the deck. So like in the last one, I recommended you take a big chunk from the top in order to put that short card closer to the top of the deck so that you have more room to wiggle with, waiting for the person to say stop. In this case, I do it about half and half. So now we're forcing the 2 of hearts. So what you do, same idea, square it up and everything, but you're just gonna continue the riffle. Well, what's gonna naturally happen is you're gonna stop on that 2 of hearts a second longer than all the other cards. So what I'm doing is riffling through, and again, I'm gonna get a break and it's gonna stop on this 2 of hearts, but instead of stopping, I'm gonna let this continue to riffle. Okay, but naturally, you're gonna get a pause on that 2 of hearts. So exaggerated, it's like this, like that. And now you just speed it up, and the only card they could remember is the 2 of hearts. The goal here, and again, pull back a lot, I find that helps, is really fast. You just let the first chunk go super fast so they can't see any of the cards. And then the second you get to the 2 of hearts, you let the second half go really fast. And it's just about finding a balance so you can get it to look good, right? You can get it to look Like they could have seen any card. And even if they see a few others, the 2 of hearts is always going to be the one that's going to stick because of how long they see it. So again, a bit of a knack, but it just takes a bit of practice and you can do that force. And then after you've done the force, you easily bring this hand over to square up the in-jog and you're completely clean, no gimmicks in the deck, and you're ready to go into whatever you would like. So that is obviously very powerful. And one thing that I can say that also can help you practice is if you get a bigger break, right? I would say sort of a 1/4 inch is kind of the sweet spot. Maybe a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch is pretty good. That's kind of the range I like to go. But if you go a big, huge one, like a full inch, you'll never miss that short card, okay? So that's something you can practice with to build up and get the feel. Now, another really neat idea is using this as a very clean, very fair peek. This is an idea I had while playing around with this, and I thought, what if we flip this on its head? What if the short card we use as sort of a way to mark the deck, and later we use it to achieve the peek of the card? So I want to show you quickly how this peek looks. Now, I have a peek already that I've taught on the channel. It's called Everybody's Peek, and it's fantastic. Go check out that video. And I use this all the time, but you essentially would peek the card as you're dribbling by just pulling up on the thumb a little bit, and you can see the pip perfectly, but from the front, it looks like there's no way you can see. And in that one, you turn your head and you just slightly look back. The second you get your peek, you complete the head turn, and it gives the psychology that you were never looking. The brilliant thing about this one is you can genuinely never look the whole time that you do this. So here's how it would look. I'll show you. So you look away, the cards are riffled, and you tell them to remember that card, and we throw it in the middle, square it up. And now, of course, they could have thought of any one of those cards, any one at all. It like does not matter. I have no idea. And look, we have no breaks. The card's not on the bottom, not on the top, nothing like that. But I already know that it is the 8 of clubs. Pretty cool, right? It seems very fair, very genuine. Let me show you how that works. So in this, we're actually using the short card sort of like an in-jog, right? To mark the position of the card. But instead of doing a control or anything like that, we're gonna use that now and use the short card principle to get a peek ourselves of the card. So how it works is you do your dribble as fair as you want. They can stop wherever they'd like, and make sure your head is completely turned the entire way. Now what you're going to do is you're going to bring up this packet to show them this card. As you do that, you slightly kill the wrist and pull this card back with the thumb. Right? So this happens like this. Now you just take this with your head turned and you throw it on top while keeping your wrist just slightly back, just like that, and you square everything up. But from the back, we now have an in-jog beneath their selection. Now we turn back and we adjust and re-grip and get the deck a square if you need to. And again, I still have my in-jog here. And then I just say, and look, you really could have thought of any one of these cards. They're all different. And in that, I know it's the King of Hearts because I know what to look for. And I'm basically using the force idea on myself. So I'm just looking at what card I see for a second longer than the rest. And to the spectators, yes, it's the card they just picked. And in actual performance, especially if you have a group, I would turn to slightly towards other people rather than the person who selected the card, just so they don't, maybe accidentally see their card again. I would just turn to someone else and say, look, they could have picked any one of those cards, and I'll just get my peek while I'm doing that. I kind of hold it like this, lean over, and I say, look, they could have had any one of those. And you see how obvious it is that it's the King of Hearts to us when you know what to look for, right? But if you're doing it to your spectator, it's equally the same. It's not surprising that if they see their own card, it should be in the deck. But in that case, I would just go a bit slower so they see a bunch of other cards. Then I get my peek. The other nice thing is from the front, they only see this. But from the back, at the angle I have, I can actually see the short card marking. So I know clearly that this is the spot. I can almost, it's like an insurance policy. Like as I'm swiping by, I see that short card and the king at the same time, and I know, all right, it is that king, right? So you can go through just like that. So again, after you get your peek, you come back and you just say, so you really could have had any one of those cards. And in that, I can tell, like you see how it barely looks like anything, but you can just see that King of Hearts for an extra second. And you can do it so fast because you know what exactly you're looking for. And you can even do it twice if you miss it the first time. Say, look, you could have thought of any one of these. No, really, look, any one of these, they're all different. Start slow at the beginning, look, any one, they're all different. You stop on your short card and then you keep going, right? So a really cool idea how to get a peek with the short card idea. In terms of some subtleties, I really think that head turn is super important if you're gonna use the peek. We can have our head turned away the whole time, right? So why not do it, right? As we do that, and then we say, look, you could have had any one of these cards. and I know it's the queen of spades in that case. Now another little subtlety you can do with the peek is as you do this, you come back and you can dribble the cards on top. As long as you dribble them a little bit more forward, you won't disturb your in-jog, and now all you have to do is come and square up everything, and now you're right back in the same position, ready to stop on your short card. So again, that would go like this, boom, and then you can just dribble these on top, and it completely looks like you've lost the card, but for you, you have a nice big in-jog. Now we're just gonna square everything up, right, re-grip, and now I come through and I stop right on my short card. Now a great subtlety about the peek that you can do is after you get it, make sure you really slow down as you riffle through those back few cards. So it's kind of like you could have had any one of these cards, right? Look, they're all different, just like that. And I know it's the 4 of spades because I came through, I got my paws on it, and then I slowly went through the rest. So in terms of some body language now and using the short card, I would highly recommend that you just try to do this as naturally and as sort of nonchalant as possible in the particular case of the peek, right? So you have your in-jogged card and you go for the peek and you just say, look, you really could have had any one of these cards you want, and in that you get your peek, right? You said, look, you could have had any one of these, and you get your peek that way, stopping on the short card, right? And it's just very casual. So if I have the peek, or if I have the 3 of hearts I need to peek, I just say, look, you really could have had any one of these cards, like they're all different, it really doesn't matter, but I've got my peek, and it just feels natural, casual, like this is just an afterthought, like, oh, just a little riffle, look, you could have had any one of these, or they're all different, or whatever you're gonna say while you do that. So I come here and I get the peek, but I'm almost not even paying attention. My head is turned up, and my eyes just slightly glance down. So I say, look, you could have had any one of those at all. It doesn't even look like I'm paying attention to what's going on here, but it's such a counterintuitive thing as a spectator to see that you'd never imagine that that's the moment when they get the card. And obviously you want this whole process to look fairly smooth. So you do your dribble, come back, square everything up, and then you go into it, get your peek, and you're good to go, right? So it's all smooth, congruent. There's no weird movements, especially if you're doing the cut and pull back in that one motion. You don't want to have this and then a pause and then you go. You just want to make it look like this, and you can get your in-jog still, right? It's very easy to do quickly and make it look natural, and then you can adjust your grip and do your force right on the short card. Now in terms of some other uses and ideas, I feel like I just have to mention this, that of course you can use the short card as a control. So in the same way as you do your peek and you pull back like this and you throw it on, now I mean we're talking, it's really just an in-jog, right? But it's marking the position of that card, and you can easily come and get a break on where the selection is. You just have to remember it's going to be that card there, and then you can either cut it to the table, control it to the bottom, or of course you can go ahead and do some kind of pass, get the card to the bottom, whatever the case is. You can also use this idea of using it as a control, and the nice thing is you can actually set the deck down, and for most people's eye line they won't even see that, and you can even spread a few cards, you know, make it look messy on top and really cover that in-jog. And now when you pick up, you can go straight into your pass and you have the card controlled, right? So using it as a control is just another thing. You can maybe go for the peek first and then control it. You can do a force and then control the force card. Lots of different options because that short card is also acting as sort of an in-jog. The last thing I want to talk about is a small effect that I've taught before called Mind Reader, but you can actually do a really neat variation of that using this short card idea. So the effect is essentially you can have one spectator think of a card and another one think of a card, and in that they both think of the same card. That's essentially what it's sort of like a spectator mind reading sort of thing. They read each other's mind. So one way you could easily do that really quickly with this is do a very fair dribble, have them remember that card and say stop, and then you just get your short card, throw it on, and now they're thinking of a card, and now you say, you know, they have a card in mind, but obviously I stopped on that card, and so maybe, you know, there's a way that someone could know what that card is. So that's why I'm going to have you, the other spectator, figure out what that card is. And now you say, I'm not even going to stop on a card, I'm just going to riffle through like that, and I just want you to think of one that you see, okay? Just like that, any card you want, all right, go. And you go through like that, and now they're also thinking of the same card, and it feels super fair. And you can build it up as a sort of intuition thing. You can say, you know, he could have thought of any card, but he picked the one that felt right to him, right? And then what I like to do always is now do an actual riffle as I'm explaining, but do it slow so they can see, you know, everyone else can see that you know, all the cards they could have picked, sort of like a dual reality. So you say, look, he really could have thought of any one of these cards, right? They're all different, and that builds a really nice effect that way. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Don't forget to leave a like if you did, so that hopefully a few more people can see this video and get some value out of it. Now, I really think the short card, or the impromptu short card, I should say, is a neat idea, and I think there's more to explore. At the end of the day, it's sort of a glorified in-jog, but we're using that in-jog to allow us to achieve sort of the principles of a short card. So I really appreciate you guys taking some time to watch this video. Welcome all the new subscribers. The channel has been growing quite fast lately, so that's great, and there's a lot of new people, I'm sure, seeing this video. So I hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are not already. And so with all that said, guys, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.